Does God exist? That's the big question, and I'm your host, Gabriel Bouch. A lot of people say there's just no evidence that God exists, and so believing in God is at best a blind leap of faith. Others take an even stronger stance. They argue if there's no evidence for God's existence, then the most rational position is atheism. I mean, why would you believe in something for which there's absolutely no evidence? But is there really no evidence for the existence of God? In the next few videos, I'm going to outline 10 intriguing lines of evidence that point to God's existence. Number 1, the finite age of the universe. Philosopher William Lane Craig puts the argument very simply. 1, whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2, the universe began to exist. 3, therefore the universe has a cause. This is a logically valid argument, and so if you want to escape the conclusion, you've got to reject one of the premises. Suppose you want to reject premise number 2, the universe began to exist. In that case, you're committing yourself to an eternally old universe, a universe that is infinitely old. Now, this is going to cause you problems both scientifically and philosophically. I did my PhD work in mathematics, and I can remember one of my professors saying to me that one of the things that makes mathematics so difficult is infinity. If you're not careful with infinity, it can just lead to all kinds of paradoxes and contradictions. In fact, most philosophers believe that our physical universe does not contain any actual infinities. It just leads to too many problems. So there's not an infinite amount of time, and there is no infinite collection of real objects. On the other hand, suppose you want to reject premise number 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Well, if you reject that premise, then you're saying that the universe came into existence for no reason at all. Do we really want to say that there is no reason that the physical universe came into existence? Both premise 1 and premise 2 seem more plausible than their negations. In that case, we should accept the conclusion. The universe has a cause. Now, what sort of thing could cause the universe to come into existence? That thing should be beginningless, otherwise we can apply the same sort of arguments to that thing. So what sort of beginningless thing outside of our physical universe could cause the physical universe to come into existence? It's difficult to think of a candidate other than God. For this reason, the finite age of the universe is a very intriguing line of evidence pointing to the existence of God. Number 2, the existence of life. There are no simple life forms. Even the most basic cell is fantastically complex. I can remember in middle school learning about the simple cell. Well, there are no simple cells. Every cell is filled with scores of molecular machines that perform all kinds of functions that are essential for life. Now, these molecular machines are made out of proteins, and here a mystery emerges. Scientist David Goodsell puts it this way. The key molecular process that makes modern life possible is protein synthesis, since proteins are used in nearly every aspect of living. The synthesis of proteins requires a tightly integrated sequence of reactions, most of which are themselves performed by proteins. Now, did you catch that? It takes proteins to make proteins. This is a huge chicken and the egg sort of problem. If it takes proteins to make proteins, how do you get the first proteins? Now, some people want to argue that the first proteins just came into existence by chance. It just happened randomly. Well, getting even a moderately sized functional protein is never going to happen by chance. And so to cross this huge chasm from non-life to life, we're going to need some sort of intentional, intelligent agent like God. And therefore, the existence of life is a very powerful line of evidence pointing to God's existence. Number 3. The existence of science. In the 1960s, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Eugene Wigner wrote a popular essay titled "The Unreasonable Effectiveness of Mathematics in the Natural Sciences." I love this essay. I highly encourage you to just Google it and read it for yourself. It's very compelling. And in this essay, Wigner asks 3 big questions. Firstly, why should natural laws exist at all? Now, we've come to take that for granted, that the universe is very orderly, that it's not random. But why should it be this way? Why shouldn't the universe be completely random and chaotic? Now you might say, there is a lot of randomness in our universe. Yes, but the randomness that we experience is still governed by natural laws. Why shouldn't the universe be completely random and completely chaotic? Secondly, Wigner asked the question, given that natural laws exist, why should we have the mental capacity to discover them? Now, there are approximately 8.7 million living species on the Earth. Do you know how many of those species can discover and contemplate the laws of nature? 1. Only our species. The rest of the 8.7 million species are doing just fine without that ability. Why shouldn't these natural laws, even though they exist, be so far beyond our mental capacity to discover and contemplate? Why is it that we can come to know them and describe them? Now, thirdly, Wigner asks, given that we can discover the natural laws, why should it be the case that mathematics, that was pursued only for its own beauty and intrinsic interest, should be able to describe these laws of nature with such fantastic precision? Steven Weinberg puts it this way: it is very strange that mathematicians are led by their sense of mathematical beauty to develop formal structures that physicists only later find useful, even where the mathematician had no such goal in mind. Physicists generally find the ability of mathematicians to anticipate the mathematics needed in the theories of physics quite uncanny. It is as if Neil Armstrong in 1969, when he first set foot on the surface of the moon, had found in the lunar dust the footsteps of Jules Verne. Mathematicians don't do math because they want to study the physical universe. Mathematicians do mathematics because they think it's beautiful, because it's interesting, because they want to solve problems. And it just turns out that that mathematics that they study that seems so abstract is exactly what is needed to describe the natural laws with incredible precision. Now, why should that be the case? Wigner himself had no answer. He says it's a miracle. A, quote, wonderful gift which we neither understand nor deserve. Now, if you're willing to accept theism, that there is a personal God who wants us to know Him, who wants us to study the universe, who wants us to think His thoughts after Him, then it's reasonable that we would have the mental capacity to discover and contemplate the laws of nature. Those are our first 3 lines of evidence pointing to the existence of God. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to leave a comment, like, or subscribe, and we'll unpack the next few lines of evidence in our next video.